going now. So I'd like to begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. And I'd like to extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. And now over to you, Sharon.
Thank you, Suzanne. Next slide, please. Just waiting for there we go. There's our agenda for today. So I'm Sharon Foster, Senior Export Advisor with Investment New South Wales and a member of Austrade's Trade Start Network. This is just quickly our agenda today. Please jump in with any questions at the end. If you're able to come off mute or put in the chat and we'll get back to you. You can certainly email us at any time. So we'll get right into it now. Next slide, please, Suzanne. This is myself here. I'll be presenting today, and also Kien Van Nguyen, who is our Trade and Investment Director based in our Hanoi office in Vietnam. Welcome, Kien. It's great to see you almost every day. We talk, so which is really good. This particular program will also be supported by our export programs team and our ASEAN priority markets team. And we also have Zung, who is based in Austrade, Vietnam, assisting our team with Kien. There'll be some collaboration with Austrade for the Wine to Vietnam program. Next slide, please, Suzanne. We'll just jump right in now. So let's review the program overview for Wine to Vietnam, which at this stage, some of the items may be actually subject to change, but just to give you a feel for the program outline, the actual expression of interests applications are now open. You can actually go ahead and apply if you're interested, or work out after this information session if you'd like to apply. They'll be open until the 3rd of November. If you're successful to receive a spot on this program, one of the important points is to really be fully immersed and fully committed to the program. There are 3 main elements to the program. So there's the introduction, the preparation, and the engagement stage. So just quickly, I'll mention about during the introduction phase, we'll have a welcome information session on Friday, the 22nd of November, which will actually go for about an hour. And there will be a series of accessible modules and self-service fact sheets from Export Council Australia. And there'll also be some information from IP Australia as well that you can actually access at any time, but I'd really suggest doing that early on so that you're prepared, and we can certainly advise you around that. The next stage, the preparation phase, will be information on market intelligence and an overview on the Vietnam wine market and doing business in Vietnam, which will be on the 5th of December. Importantly, during this phase, you'll be provided with instructions on sending wine samples to Vietnam, which will be a part of this program as well for the wine tasting events that we'll be holding in market in February and March. During the 3rd phase, there will be 2 awareness-raising wine tasting masterclass events in Vietnam. As I said, they'll be in February and March. You do not need to actually attend these events. They won't be in-person ones, but these will be in-market tasting events that will be arranged by Kien and our offshore team. The last part of the phase, there will be, which is the engagement phase, there will be a main wine tasting event and showcase, which will also include business matching, a retail tour, and in-market supports. So for this particular in-market element, you will need to actually be in market and attend the event. The main resources that you will need to be there, of course, will be at your cost, which is the travel, your accommodation, and various things that you will need to get there. However, the actual Going Global program, training content, and in-market events will be fully funded. Another important point here is that Investment New South Wales will facilitate some introductions and briefing discussion between participants and the Vietnamese sommeliers to prepare you for these events in market as well. Further engagement on this program is expected then as we move along that engagement discussions for further discussions with your export advisor, and also to look to see how you're progressing with export sales and outcomes, which is really important, is what we want to see as the end game from this process, and work closely as well with your export advisor at Investment New South Wales. Thanks, Suzanne. Just quickly on some of the overall eligibility criteria, obviously need to be headquartered in New South Wales and be export ready and export capable. There are some finer details there that you can actually go in and look at our link on those core eligibility requirements. There'll be a link to that you can have a look at, and we'll be sending this presentation out at the end. Importantly, you need to have the resources and commitment for this program, which is designed for New South Wales businesses to produce and own their own brand. The program's really not for aggregators or traders or businesses who sell services to exporters. Some additional requirements there. You really need to be already commercialised in the Australian market and obviously have a wine export licence. Those eligible businesses chosen to showcase their wine to Vietnam need to independently facilitate delivery of sufficient samples for promotion, which is important as well for the wine tasting and masterclass events that we're doing with the buyers. And instructions on how to do this will be provided to those that are successful on the stream. And obviously be in markets, you need to be well prepared for that, which will guide you throughout the process. The program is open to a wide range of wine, including red, white and sparkling wines. We can talk to you in more detail on what sort of wines that you might like to choose for this market. There is market opportunity for organic wines and award-winning wines as well. And finally, applicants who have not previously exported to Vietnam will be given priority for this program in the first instance. But that's really the core elements for this discussion today, and we can certainly talk to you further on some of those things that you will need to be prepared for the market. So I might ask Kian if you could start now with your quick overview on the market. Over to you, Kian.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, everyone, for participating in the information session today. I'm Kian, and sitting next to me is Dũng, our Australian colleague, who is also supporting this Wine to Vietnam Going Global program as introduced earlier by Sharon. So I would like to go quickly through the very high-level macro overview of the market, and that answers partly the question why Vietnam is interesting for this Wine Going Global program. So in this year, despite many challenges around the world, including the war in Europe, in the Middle East, and the recent typhoon that hits the three biggest cities in Vietnam, which is Hanoi, Hải Phòng, Quảng Ninh, the three biggest economic areas in Vietnam. Vietnam still expects to meet its GDP growth target for 2024, which is 7%, according to both Vietnamese government and HSBC's forecast. And some of the other banks, they also forecast at about 6.8%, which is very, very good for Vietnam. And in 2025, the target is between 6.5 to 7% of GDP growth. A lot of foreign investment, direct investment, has been realized in Vietnam in the past 6 months of 2024. Which is estimated at about 14.15 billion US dollars, which is up 8% against the same period last year, and which is the highest over the past 5 years. So it gives you a bit of the sentiment about the growth in Vietnam and the disposable income in Vietnam over the past year as well in 2024. Going forward, Vietnam is planning a lot of big infrastructure projects over the next 10 years. So the Parliament and the Communist Party of Vietnam just approved the 100 billion Australian dollar equivalent high-speed train line from Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh City. So if you divide it by 10, so approximately 10 billion Australian dollars will be disbursed over the next 10 years for each year. And the rail lines in Hanoi and rail lines in Ho Chi Minh City would be approximately at the same budgets allocated, and then be about 9 billion Australian dollars to upgrade 23 expressways over the next years or so. So there'll be a lot of money in public spending It can be both public spending and PPP, but against there'd be a lot of money disbursed by the government and the private sector to go into those projects, which means that there'd be a lot of disposable income for the people as well, especially the middle income class. Next slide, please. And as I said, the middle income class in Vietnam, who benefits a lot from the economic activities, is growing very rapidly. So last year in 2023, the middle income class accounts for 13%, but the government is aiming at the 26% of the urbanization in the middle income class in 2025. So that helps a lot of the economy growth in the next years or so, and that leads to consumption of premium products and as well as the wine in Vietnam. We also have a good relationship between Australia and Vietnam in terms of trading, and that also sets the favorable conditions for Vietnam wine, for New South Wales wine exporters to be competitive in the market. Wine consumption in Vietnam is on the rise, supported by growing appreciation of wine culture, and we have a lot of restaurants and hotels now incorporating the wine in their extensive lists, and start hosting wine-related events, which attract both locals and tourists. In 2023, Vietnam purchased approximately 11.4 million Australian dollars worth of wine from Australia, which is an increase of 1.5 times from the year 2019, which is the pre-pandemic period. And Vietnam is the fourth largest wine market for in Southeast Asia. And Vietnam market is growing and is anticipated to progress at a compound annual growth rate of approximately 11% revenue in the period of 2023-2030. And there are a number of FTAs or international trade agreements that, between that Vietnam and Australia are signatories to, like the ASEAN, Australia and New Zealand Free Trade Agreement, the CPTPP, the RCEP as well. So under these FTAs, a lot of tariffs would be gradually reduced, and especially under the CPTPP, the tariffs on Australian wine will be reduced from 20% now to only 15% in 2026, and ultimately to zero by 2028, which is a lot favorable for New South Wales wine as well. Next, please. I think that is the overall markets overview. So you can have a sense of the opportunity here in Vietnam for you. Thank you. Maybe I'll hand it over to Sharon for presenting the next step.
Yeah, thanks, Kian. That sounds great. We might, just before going to next steps and closing off our info session, we might go to some questions, because I'm sure people will have questions. If you don't feel necessarily comfortable in coming off mute, you can email us or put in the chat and we can come back to you later. But I'd just like to open that up to everyone now. If you had some questions, please come off mute or put your hand, and we will go through those questions. So anyone have any questions? No questions. Karen, I think.
Yeah, hi.
So, thanks, Karen.
Thank you for the presentation. So will you be sending through application form or link to where we can apply to potentially
absolutely,
become
Karen. Yeah, absolutely. We'll send it's there now if you want to have a look. We might put it in the chat, and also we'll send this presentation out with this exact links here, which shows the eligibility criteria and to apply. So put your best foot forward, and if you need any help and you want some advice from your export advisor, please reach out, or you can reach out to Kian or myself to talk about your suitability of your business for this program.
Okay, thank you.
No worries, Karen. Thank you. Any other questions there?
I've got a question, Sharon. Any business that's contemplating going, how much wine should they be look at sending as a part of the event or the sampling of the masterclasses? What sort of volume are they looking at?
Yeah, that's a good question, Chris. Kian and Zun, do you have some indicative ideas for that, please?
Thanks, Chris. We will work out the volume depending on the number of events and the number of participants that we would expect. But we will work that out and share the information with the cohort who will have been enrolled in this program. But we will notify very early once they are enrolled.
Yeah.
Chris, maybe I will add some information for your question. As Australia, we just supported and co-organized with Wine Australia for the wine mission to Vietnam, both Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City last week. And for your question, and based on what we have done for that mission, is we had 24 wineries to come here, and then each will bring the signature or the wines, almost the range of the wine that they are going here, and then each wine would be around 2 boxes or 1 boxes, and depends on the value or the thing. Like they would do the one signature wine, and the other ones like easy to bring for the new from the entry to the highest level of wine. So very much depends on that. But we do the wine showcase and with 24 wineries, and the bottles that we ship here is about 300 bottles.
Okay,
for
thank
all
you.
24 wineries.
For the 24, yeah, thank you.
One city, yeah, one city.
150,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, yes, Chris.
Can I be greedy and ask another question?
Yes, please.
I haven't seen the program in detail, but what sort of time would each participant be expected to put aside to participate?
Yep, Chris. I've done a bit of a calculation on that, and of course, it's just an indicative number of hours. Taking into account the readings, the knowledge, learning, attending our workshops, also including the time in market, it's minimum 10 hours, I would say, at this stage. I think that's not a lot of hours, but it could be more than that. But I think it's well use of time, given that this program will lead up into May next year, which will include the travelling component as well. But look, I think that's probably a fair number of hours, I would say.
And that's spread out over
Spread
2-3
out.
months.
Spread out, yeah. Initially, some probably in-depth timing in terms of attending the workshops and talking to us even individually. Probably, Kian, that discussion with the sommeliers would be maybe, would you say 1 hour for each client? I'm not sure. So that would need to be taken. And I think that's a really good activity that will occur to really streamline what we're trying to do as well. Thanks, Chris.
We've just got a question in the chat, which I can read out, Kian. I think it might be for you. So what are the major wine varieties being consumed or sought after in Vietnam at the moment? And what sort of quantities tend to be consumed each year?
That's a figure that I don't have the total volume of wine consumed each year. But you can see in my previous slides, I said that in 2023, Vietnam purchased almost $11.4 million worth of wine from Australia alone. Right, so the wine that Vietnam consume more, probably the red wine. That is the kind of the tradition, but it doesn't mean that white wine are neglected. White wine are also started to be appreciated by the Vietnamese drinkers, especially in areas along the coast where they have either the seafood or a bit of hot weather, so they would appreciate also the white wine. But we wouldn't get to that insight once the cohort is fully enrolled.
Yeah, that's great, Kian. Any more questions there?
One more question, if I can be greedy
Yes,
again.
yes.
What type of occasions, and is there any demand for sparkling wine, and what type of occasions does the market? Is it sort of formal occasions, or is it home at dinner, or what type of activity triggers consumption? I wonder if you could give some light of that, Keen.
First, thanks, Chris. Very important question, because after all, when we drink, right? Around the holidays is the most consumed time, like Tet holiday, which in this year will be end of January, early February. So people drink a lot of alcohol beverages during that period of time. The second is during the events. Certain events, people would consume alcoholic beverages. So beer used to be very widely used in, for example, weddings, even funerals. People drink alcoholic during family get-togethers also. But these days, people started to consume with their everyday meals. So that would probably answer the question. Have I answered your question?
Yes, thank you, Keen. Or is there any interest in sparkling wines?
Oh, sparkling wine. Sparkling wine is more or less like a starter to at events. But when people drink at home and at events, usually red, whites. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Ken and Chris. I don't think we have any more questions, but certainly if you think of some later, or please reach out to us. We've got our contact details on the next slide coming up, and we will send you all a copy of this recording and presentation so that you can maybe have a bit more of a deeper dive into considering applying for this particular Going Global program, Wine to Vietnam. And a couple of other tips just while we've got a few more minutes here. And for those wine companies that are on the call, you may have heard of some of the tools and resources that you can use to have a look at some of the things going on in Vietnam. You can also have a look at the Go Global Toolkit. We might put a link to some of our other tools and resources on other parts of our website, and also Austrade's website, that you can tap into. There's also things if you wanted to learn more about the trade agreements as well, which Kian touched on. You could have a look at the FTA portal to get a bit more of an understanding about some of those free trade agreements. There's also other tools and resources that we can provide those links to you as well. So please do reach out. I think we might close if no one else had any other questions to ask. And we're really keen to talk to you, have that discussion around whether you're interested to apply for this stream. It sounds like it's going to be really exciting. I know that Kian and his team over there, and Zoom, thank you very much for your support as well.
Shannon,
yep.
I think someone is asking another question.
Oh, we have another one. Great, fantastic. Yep, we can hear you.
Sorry, finally got it working.
Oh, great.
What is, out of curiosity, what is the sort of price range for entry level versus, I guess, super premium wine over in Vietnam?
All right, so entry level. I would say like this, so you can calculate anything retail, the price of retail in Australia, you triple that, that means the retail price here in Vietnam,
Okay.
on average.
So if someone was to go home and have a bottle of wine for dinner, what would be the sort of price that they would expect to spend on a bottle of wine for dinner?
Okay, so it depends on who will buy it, to be honest. But on average, for example, Dung and myself, if we buy something to drink with a friend at home, on you know, as it doesn't have to be a premium wine. We'd pay about 600 or 700 Vietnam dong, which is so you divide it by 16.5.
It's about 45 AUD.
Yeah, 45.
Yeah.
45 AUD, which is again about $15 retail in Australia. That kind of wine.
Yep, brilliant. Thank you.
Great
Out of
question.
curiosity, does there tend to be a limit to that very top of the range, or can it just keep going up? Obviously, it depends on who's buying it. But I guess celebrations and stuff, you might buy more expensive wine. What would that sort of pricing look like too?
I would say there's no limits. At the top end, people would pay thousands of dollars for a good wine here in Vietnam. If they think that they're meeting nice people, they're working with, they need the valuable wine for that business dinner or that kind of fancy dinner, they would pay premium for that.
Very good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
One more thing, and value for money for the wine pick is very important, because it makes more value and for the people to drink, and also they try to rely on the sommelier or their friends who have knowledge of wine and to pick up the best wine, which is meaning the value for money for their party and also the purpose. Yeah.
I think we have one more.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, that's right, Kian. Karen, do you have a question?
Yes. So you were saying that the retail price in Vietnam is 3 times the retail price in Australia. Why is it so high? That is insanely high, I think, for export.
Right. Why it's so high? Because of many other things. Number one is that the transport costs. Transport of wine is not that cheap. Number two is the margin. Number three is tax. So in addition to tariff, in Vietnam we have VAT, plus we have the we call it special consumption tax, which apply on alcoholic drinks, on some other things that the government think that the consumption is either harmful for the society, or that takes away the or as a luxury goods that take away the money into production. So that kind of principle of tax and the margins and the retail margin, plus a lot of education into this market. So unlike in Australia, you go and grab a bottle of wine, assuming that everybody would like wine and drink wine. But in Vietnam, wine is a new culture. So a lot of introduction, a lot of education are required. We do wine tasting, which is a way to educate the public about wine drinking.
Okay, thank you. So part of that induction.
Does it answer your question?
Yes. So just Sharon, a question for you then. As part of the induction, if you are accepted to export into Vietnam, would that be to get that full understanding of the margin expected by the buyers and how to deal with the various tax and levies and so forth?
Yeah, we will have a session on that. I think that will probably be more into the 5th of December activity that we're having.
Yeah,
The market sort of market briefing and deeper dive into what's required. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah. No
Thanks very
worries,
much.
Karen.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Karen. Any last questions?
Thank you for
might
question.
have? I think we might get ready to close. So I might make some final closing remarks. And yeah, please do have a look at our links and see whether you're interested. Reach out to us. Applications close at 11:59 on Sunday, the 3rd of November. So there's still time to apply. Get your applications in if you're interested. Do read carefully the selection criteria, the program outcomes, and for more information on the benefits and features of our New South Wales Going Global export programs in general, or keep a lookout for new ones that are coming up over time, there's a link there that you can go in and have a look at that as well. So I might make some closing remarks now as well, which is good luck to everyone who might be applying. You may have already put in an expression of interest. Please reach out to our export advisors for discussion on your suitability for this program, or to myself or Kien, and we can help you to make those decisions. And certainly, if you've got any more questions about the market in general, please reach out and we can support you on a one-to-one basis as well. So thank you all and have a great day, and we look forward to hearing more from you. Thanks, Suzanne.
Everyone.